Welcome back to the deep dive. Right now, everywhere you turn, it feels like the conversation is just saturated with AI, what it can do, how much it can automate, summarize,
Yeah, so
generate. But honestly, that feels like the easy half of the discussion, doesn't it?
yeah,
The really crucial question for you, whether you're leading an organization or, frankly, just trying to figure out your own career path, isn't just what AI will do, it's what it fundamentally won't do. And why that gap, that failure point, is actually where human success is going to lie.
that's exactly right. And what's really interesting looking at the sources is how clearly they define that boundary. The tech, well, it really changes how things get done, the execution,
Yeah.
but it doesn't. And it really can't alter the why, the purpose.
Okay.
So the core idea we're digging into today is this: the future. It belongs not just to people who are good at using AI, as an amplifier.
Mine as a tool.
Exactly. But to leaders who really double down on the uniquely human
Yeah.
things: judgment, courage, the ability to create real meaning. We're basically mapping out those responsibilities that just, no system can automate away.
Okay, so our mission here is to really distill those irreplaceable human skills, we're calling it the human layer, and then figure out the practical guardrails you need. How do you actually secure success over the next, say, 5 years, 2025 through 2030? Let's start at the top. Leadership in an organization.
Yeah, when you look at the really high-stakes leadership roles, the limits of AI become pretty stark pretty quickly. AI is, it's superb at optimizing the how,
Tactics.
the tactics, the execution, crunching data, efficiency, fantastic. But it just cannot handle those high-stakes responsibilities. And the reason is those responsibilities are fundamentally about values, and they demand real accountability.
I get that AI can't literally be the CEO, but where's that line exactly? You said the sources are specific. What's maybe the most surprising thing AI can't do in the boardroom? Is it the big vision stuff, or maybe something more subtle like absorbing risk?
It's actually both, and they're kind of connected. We can break down these, let's call them non-substitutable roles. First, AI absolutely cannot set vision. It can spot trends, sure, project data.
Look backwards, yeah.
Exactly. But it can't define an inspiring direction or a moral purpose that really goes beyond the data it was trained on. It doesn't have that spark.
That makes intuitive sense. Data looks back, vision looks forward.
Precisely. Second, it cannot model values. Things like integrity, fairness, courage. These aren't just words in a policy document. They're lived. You see them in the tough trade-offs people make under pressure. An LLM can talk about them, but it can't live them.
Right.
And third, and this might be the boundary that really hits home for people, a machine cannot absorb risk.
Okay, that feels like the real differentiator. Because if a leader uses an AI for a critical decision and it goes wrong, the algorithm doesn't face the consequences.
Not at all.
The human leader has to be the one who's ultimately accountable for the outcome, for people's jobs, for the stakeholders. So where's that practical line when the efficiency gains look so tempting?
The line is drawn right at liability and moral agency. The second a decision could impact someone's life, their livelihood, their liberty, you must have human ethical judgment and the willingness to stand by that decision, that accountability piece.
Got it.
And the last two limits are totally relational. AI cannot resolve conflict with moral weight. It could maybe mediate in a simple way, but it can't arbitrate complex disputes with real empathy and a sense of fairness. It doesn't understand the human cost. And crucially, it cannot inspire resilience. Giving people hope, encouragement, keeping the culture strong when things get tough. That needs a real embodied human presence. You can't get that from an algorithm.
And we're seeing this play out already, aren't we? Studies on the future of work keep showing that those human skills, empathy, vision, resilience, they're still the top predictors for long-term success. I mean, think about Satya Nadella at Microsoft.
Yeah, great example.
He very deliberately reframed their whole mission around empathy and purpose right alongside this massive AI expansion. It was this blend, this fusion of tech power and human depth.
That's the blueprint, really. That holistic approach is key for leaders in this AI era. The core skills you need now are: 1, vision storytelling. You have to articulate the why. 2, ethics and integrity to navigate all those tricky trade-offs we just talked about. 3 is empathy and relational presence, making people feel seen and valued, especially during change.
Crucial.
And finally, systems thinking, which is really about seeing the whole picture, integrating the tech side, the people side, the ethical side into one coherent strategy.
Okay, so if leadership at the top is about absorbing that big organizational risk, how does that translate down into the day-to-day, the human-to-human interactions? Because if AI is multiplying our output, like you said, we need to focus on what humans multiply. And the sources are saying that's belonging.
That's the core idea for the human-to-human layer. AI multiplies output, absolutely. But humans multiply belonging. AI simply cannot automate things like psychological safety or loyalty or trust.
Why not? Because they're feelings.
Because they're built on moral agency and felt experience. They require vulnerability, and that's where the human layer is absolutely essential. AI can't be vulnerable. They can't truly connect on that level.
So, okay, on the ground, day to day, what specifically falls into that never automate zone? What can't AI do between people?
The sources point to 4 really clear limits here. First, AI cannot create belonging. It can't grant genuine acceptance or dignity. That's a human gift. Second, it cannot truly hold space. Provide that calm, embodied presence you need when emotions are high or things are ambiguous.
Right, just being there.
Just being there, fully present. Third, and this is huge, it cannot repair harm. An apology, making amends, rebuilding trust after it's broken, that requires moral agency. A machine doesn't have that. It can generate apologetic text, but it's not the same thing.
Wow, yeah. That repair piece feels massive. It almost sounds like in the future, if you want to be indispensable, you need to get really good at apologizing and fixing relationships.
That's a huge part of it, absolutely. And the sources give us a model for this, the essential human layer model, to make it practical.
Yeah.
Leaders need to excel in 4 core areas. First is presence,
Okay.
meaning embodied engagement, defaulting to face-to-face or at least real-time human contact for anything high stakes, because that sends a signal.
Right.
This person, this conversation, matters more than efficiency.
Right. And the second pillar is empathy. We talk about it a lot, but what does it actually look like in this AI-heavy world?
It looks like really active listening, trying to understand the needs behind someone's words, using needs-based language. The third pillar is that repair function we just mentioned, having a process. Acknowledge the harm. Offer a genuine apology, make amends, and this is key. Fix the system or process that caused the problem so it doesn't happen again.
And the fourth?
The fourth is critical, especially for anyone creating things or communicating, taste and direction. AI can churn out endless options, summaries, images, drafts.
A fire hose of content.
Exactly. But a human has to set the standard. Make the final call. Choose why this piece of content, why this tone, why now. That's a human act of judgment, of taste. It requires a point of view.
Yeah, the curation, the final say.
And we can even break this down into tiny actions, micro behaviors. The sources talk about a conversation playbook. For those really tough moments, you don't lead with the solution or the efficiency argument. You start with needs.
Like what? Give me an example.
Simple prompts like, help me understand what would a good outcome look like for you here? Or, it sounds like you're feeling really frustrated. Let me make sure I'm understanding correctly. I'm just naming the feeling without judgment. These are things AI can't do authentically, and they build trust, one conversation at a time.
Okay, so if this human layer, the empathy, judgment, repair, if that's our ultimate advantage, our moat, how do we build that into the actual operations? How do we set up guardrails so we can scale the work with AI, but humans still own the why and, crucially, the liability?
Well, first, we have to be really honest about AI's ongoing technical limits. Even the best models have, let's say, 3 key flaws that aren't going away soon. First is confident wrongness.
Confident wrongness. Tell me what that means in plain English.
It's basically the technical term for hallucinations or confabulation. The AI generates information that's just plain wrong, but it sounds incredibly plausible.
Okay.
And it often presents it with this air of certainty, which makes it really hard for someone who's not an expert to spot the error.
Tricky. What else?
Second, it has context myopia. It just misses things. Sarcasm, cultural nuance, subtle emotional cues. It doesn't get the subtext. Or critical edge cases that fall outside its main training data.
Right. Sees the pattern, not always the exception.
Exactly. And third, there's inference variance, which means you put the same question in twice, you might get 2 different answers. That makes it really hard to rely on for consistent, reproducible processes.
So this really brings up the trust issue again, doesn't it? If the machine can be confidently wrong and lacks context, we absolutely have to rely on humans to supervise, to catch errors, to absorb the risk.
We have to. The human moat in operations comes down to 2 things. 1, ethical judgment and accountability. Deciding what should be done, not just what can be automated, and then standing behind that decision, owning it. And 2, relational craft. That ability to read the room, build the trust needed for collaboration, and critically repair harm when systems inevitably fail or create unintended consequences. Trust is ultimately earned through people, not algorithms.
Which leads directly to disclosure, right? If AI is involved, especially in anything customer-facing or even internal reports, people need to know, how do we make that standard practice?
The sources really stress this. Clear disclosure norms are essential. If a customer or an employee feels like they've been misled by an interaction that was secretly AI-driven, that trust is gone, maybe forever.
Yeah, hard to win back.
Very hard. So people have to own the outcomes and absorb the liability. Operationally, this means setting up standard disclosures. Simple things like, this draft was AI-assisted, then reviewed and finalized by human name. That small action anchors the whole thing back to human accountability.
Okay, so to make this real for any organization listening, you need a clear framework, a decision matrix maybe, that says, here's where humans absolutely must lead.
Exactly. And that matrix has to differentiate based on essentially stakes and ambiguity.
Yeah.
The human-led areas are those with high stakes and high ambiguity situations where that confident wrongness could be disastrous.
Like what?
Think legal advice, medical guidance, core strategy decisions, setting ethical policies, brand voice, crisis communications, anywhere nuance and judgment are paramount.
Got it. High risk, high fuzziness.
Right. Then you have AI-assisted or maybe AI-led domains for medium to low stakes tasks. Things like routine summaries, first drafts of reports, analyzing large data sets. But even there, human oversight is critical to catch those hallucinations or context errors.
So it sounds like we're talking about drawing clear red lines. What are some specific actions, playbook style, that leaders can take to show they're really committed to this human layer beyond just, talking about values?
Yeah, actions speak louder. Leaders need to visibly publish their decision criteria for where and how AI is deployed. Call it an integrity playbook.
Okay.
They need to maintain those clear red lines areas where AI will absolutely not be used, maybe sensitive hiring decisions or performance reviews leading to punitive actions. You need human judgment there.
Absolutely.
And finally, and this is maybe the most important shift, they need to start measuring different things, metrics that go beyond just speed and efficiency.
What kind of new metrics are we talking about?
Well, they need to start measuring things like repair velocity.
A repair velocity. Define that for us.
Repair velocity is basically how quickly does a human step in to fix things after a system failure, an AI error, or some kind of breakdown.
Okay, the time to human fix.
Exactly. A fast repair velocity shows commitment. It rebuilds trust quickly because people see you're prioritizing the human element when things go wrong. They should also measure things like ethical consistency. Does the AI's output actually align with the company's stated human values over time? These metrics show you're walking the talk on accountability.
This has been incredibly clarifying, really digging into that non-delegable responsibility.
Yep.
So for you listening, the core takeaway seems crystal clear. The unique power you bring, the thing that truly can't be automated away, is your moral judgment. It's your empathy. It's your ability to build and anchor trust. AI is an amazing tool for execution, for the how,
Yeah.
but it's not, and it looks like it never will be, a substitute for your moral agency or your relational presence, your humanity, basically.
And if we zoom out just a little, connect this to the bigger picture, we know this AI era is bringing a lot of volatility, a lot of uncertainty.
Sure.
So to really future-proof your organization, your team, maybe even yourself, don't just focus on keeping up with the latest AI model. Focus just as much, maybe more, on the human capacity to adapt, to handle failure gracefully.
That's a really powerful point about resilience, about preparation. What's a practical, proactive step someone could take tied to that readiness?
Here's a thought. Consider running failure rehearsals in your organization.
Failure rehearsals, what are those?
They're like structured drills, scenario-based exercises. You simulate a crisis, maybe an AI failure, maybe something else, and you practice responding. The key is to test your readiness, but also to model complete transparency during the simulated uncertainty.
Practicing how you communicate when things go sideways.
Exactly. It's a vital ritual, really, for building collective resilience, building that emotional muscle memory for handling tough situations with integrity. That's something no machine can replicate when the pressure's really on.
An essential ritual, secure your human moat, measure that repair velocity, and maybe run some failure rehearsals. Fantastic insight. Thanks for joining us.